So for this purpose, we will create a new activity, an empty activity called contact reader activity. So ideally, when we read contacts, it should go into a list view, but that would mean that we will have to create an adapter. We will not spend time in creating adapters and showing it. We will just read that contact as a string and use it. So in the contact reader activity here, in the view file, we will just create a simple text field, and in that we will read the activity. So I'll create a button with the text that read contacts, and on click we will say read contacts. Then we will have a scroll view. Zero dp and weight as 1. And inside the scroll view, we will have a text view. Text size, title text size, ID, contacts underscore text view. So we are going to display our contacts in this text view after we hit the read contacts button. So in the code behind, we will create a read contacts method. Okay. Now contacts is a private user information. It is a personal data. And as per the data privacy, you are actually not supposed to access the private information of the user. So in this case, we will have to take permissions from the user so that we can access the data. If the permissions are granted, you can read the contacts. If they are not granted, you cannot read the contacts. So to take permissions, there are two types of permissions in Android. One is pre-Marshmallow and one is from Marshmallow, that is Android 6.0. Pre-Android 6.0, if you had the chance to look at the downloads in Android, prior to Marshmallow, the permissions were a list of permissions that were asked from the user before downloading the application. So when you go to the Google Play Store and you want to install an application, you were displayed with a list of access permissions which was used by the application all at once, like contacts, camera, internet, network change. All these were taken permission before installation. And if you deny any of these, the installation would not work. But then post Android 6, from the beginning of Android 6, things changed. The permissions are now asked only when you use a feature. If you do not use a particular feature, there are no permissions required. For example, you can download Swiggy, but you will be asked for your address only when you try to place an order. These are called runtime permissions. As an Android developer, we will have to take care of both of these. People who are using older phones and people who are using newer phones. To take permission, we have to first mention it in the Android manifest. So in this case, we are trying to use contacts. So we will have to take permission at the application level. So open your manifest file, the Android manifest file. In that, you write in that you want permission. And it will ask you for what type of permission you are looking for. There are so many different ways in which Android can seek permission. It can seek permission for location, for camera, for a lot of things. We are interested in read contacts. Putting this tag in your manifest will allow the older systems to take permission about contacts. However, as a new environments are new operating systems are available, we will have to take runtime permissions. That is when you try to access the contacts. So either you can take permission at the launch of the activity or on the button click. We will take it on the button click. We will say if context compact dot check self permission. Context is this. What are the permissions that you are looking for? We'll say manifest dot permission dot read contacts. If this permission is not granted, if it is not granted, what is wrong? Operator cannot be applied to integer. Sorry. If this permission is not granted, then we will ask for permission. Okay. We will ask for permission. We will say request permissions. This takes a list of permissions, a string list. So we'll create new string array, and the permission we are looking for is manifest.permission.read contacts. It will again ask for a request code because you may ask multiple permissions. So I need a request code. I'm going to give the request code as 1001. It can be any number again. What add requires annotation. Import java.security.permission. Okay, so when you request this permission, when you actually request the permission, a dialog will appear in front of the user. And you will have to wait while the user selects yes or no on the dialog. So for that case, you will have to override another method called onRequestPermissionResult. onRequestPermissionResult. So once you get the result, then you can check if there is a request code, there are the permissions that you had asked, and there are the results. So since we had asked only one permission, we will say if request code equals 1001. If that is our request code, then if package manager dot permission granted is not for the first permission that we want. If it is not granted, then we stop the user saying toast dot make toast get application context. This permission, or say read contacts permission, is required to continue in the app. Length long dot show. If it is not granted, we do a toast. Else, we say read contacts. We ask it to read the contacts. Now, what is your problem? Why it is doing all this? Requires 23. Okay. Where is my Gradle? Make it 23. And sync. Okay. Okay. Let's change this as our launch activity. So this cut and contact reader activity is the first activity. So let us see if the permissions work. So here is the app, read contacts, and it is asking for permission. You deny, it is giving a dialog. Again, it will ask. Again, it will ask. So this is about runtime permissions. If you are using emulators, then go to the contacts or call feature and try to add one or two contacts into it. I don't know whether there will be a contact or not. Add a couple of contacts so we can actually read. Okay, I hope you have taken this down. Now, how this works is whenever you are trying to access any of the user private information, like contacts, messages, or library or camera, you have to seek permission from the user. If the user gives you permission, you can continue, else you have to stop. So here in this case, when we hit this button called read contacts, we are requesting the system with a permission. It's an asynchronous method in which a dialog will appear in front of the user, like so. And this dialog will ask to access the permission. If you say deny, it has to stop. But if you say allow only, then you have to proceed. Now, while this dialog is visible, once you hit on that particular method, deny or allow, it will trigger on request permission result. This will trigger. This is a method which is a callback. It's also called a delegate, a method which is waiting while a permission has been requested. So once you hit on one of those buttons, it will come back with the request code. It will tell you which permission it has inside it and the results of those permissions. So in this case, we have only got one permission. Based on the request code, we are checking if the user denied or allowed. If it denied, then you say, I wanted this permission, but you have denied it. But if it says, okay, allow, then you again go back to read contacts. Here, if it is going to again check, it will get that the permission is granted. It will get permission is granted. So I will do here is return. If it is not granted, request permission and return. Otherwise, we will now read the contacts. Okay. Thank you. Now here, let us say allow. So once I say allow, it will not come. Okay, the dialog will not come. Shall we continue?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So now I have to read a contact and display it on my label. So for this purpose, we have to use something known as, okay, we have to use something known as contact contract. Okay. So there is a class called contacts contract, which is an understanding between the contacts application and another application that I am okay to share my data. Okay. So we will have to create certain properties for this contact contract. So first thing is I need the reference to the text view, that is contacts TV, in which we will display the data. Then we have a private string array, a string array which will hold the names of properties that you read from contacts. Okay? The names of properties that you want to read from contact. These are called column projections. Column projections, which is a new string array, and you want to read certain columns. So I will now tell which columns I want to read. This comes from contact contract dot contacts dot display name primary. Then I want contact contract dot contacts dot contact status, and then I want to check if this guy has phone number. These are the three things I want to read from contacts.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What is contacts contract?
Contacts contract is a special class which allows you to interact with the phone application.
Built-in phone application.
See, this is a class. Okay. It provides a contract between contact providers and applications. So it is the interaction between the phone application and the user, your application. So it has certain properties, like it has data, it has contacts, it has a row called contacts, which is a table which represents the contacts. So this is a intermediate class which allows you to communicate your application to communicate with the phone application, with this application. Okay.
Okay.
So we have created the projection. Let us get access to that label where we are going to show, which is contacts TV equal to find view by ID r dot id dot contacts TV. And now we will read the contacts. Okay, we will read the contacts. So there is a class called content resolver. content resolver. There is a class called content resolver, and we say get content resolver from the Android system. Okay. Once you get the resolver, this is something similar to talking to a database. So we will have to get the data inside a something known as cursor. You see Android.database, the cursor class comes from the database. So we have to now read the database of contacts, which we will read using the cursor. Cursor is getting it from content resolver. It is also, in our case, it is called resolver, and we will ask a query to it. We will ask a query to it, and the query is content contacts contract dot contacts dot content URI. It's asking for a URI. We will say give me the URI from the contacts. Then it's asking for projection. What are the list of parameters that you want to read? It is my M column projections. Then it says, any peculiar selection do you want? I would say no, I don't want a selection. Any selection arguments? Since there is no selection, there is no argument. Any particular order? No, I don't want a sort order also. So I have my data inside this cursor. Cursor is kind of a memory allocation in which all the data will be read and kept ready. Okay, so it's like an Excel sheet. A sheet will be created and the pointer will be pointing to the top of it. So if the cursor is not null, that means it has data. Then we'll create a string. String builder, result is new string builder. If cursor, it's a array, okay, dot get count. Get count is greater than 0. While cursor can move next. While it can move to next, or that means while there is data. String dot append cursor dot get string first item in that array. This is the column projections. So we will first get the display name, which is at index 0, plus we'll get cursor dot get string first object, which is contact status. So 0, 1, 2. We're getting from this the projections. And finally, we'll get cursor dot get string 2. And to the it, we will append a new line character. Okay. So we'll read the contacts. After reading the contacts, we will say contact tv dot set text result. We will read it and put it. If there is no data, else contact tv dot set text no contacts found. No contacts found. So this way we are going to read the data, the contacts data into our label. Let's try. So I say read contacts and I have all my contacts here. Needs a little bit of padding. So padding, activity padding. Here.
I'm getting an error. It's saying cannot find symbol variable context compact.
Cannot find symbol variable context compact. This one.
Yeah.
This is coming from Android X Core. Check your Gradle if you have Android X Core and Core. In your Gradle, you
Yes.
have this. Okay. So this way you can get the data. However, this is a what do you say? A primary thread process. Okay. This entire thing runs on the main thread. It's a main thread process. That means if there are too many contacts, this can block the thread for some time. Okay, so we should be doing a non-blocking operation. That means we should read the contacts in the background, not on the main thread. So this entire thing, though it works well, but this entire thing is costly in terms of threading. Instead, we will read the contacts on a background thread. Okay. To read the contacts on a background thread, we will have to implement a different class. Whatever else you have done is fine. The column projections, the permissions, everything is fine. But for us to actually do it on a background thread, we will implement a special class. We will implement a special class called loader manager dot loader callbacks using a cursor. We'll implement this special class loader manager with loader callbacks. That means the loader will do the work in the background, and after it has finished, it will come back with the data. It will come back with the cursor. So here it will ask, because we say implements, that means it's an interface. So we will have to implement the callback methods. Loader manager, loader callbacks, we will have to implement the interface. So here we say implement methods. So there are these three methods, which is on create, load finish, and loader reset. These are the three methods that we have to implement, and we say okay, implement these three methods, and we will get these three different methods. So it says create the loader. You want to first create a loader. What is the loader? It is the same loader that we created with content resolver. Instead of content resolver here, we will now create a loader. So from here, on loader create, return a new cursor loader with the context with the URI context contract dot contact dot content URI, the same thing, m colon projections, the same list of data. Again, do you want a selection? No selection required, null. Selection arguments, null. Sort order, null. It is the same parameters that we passed to the query here. The resolver query we passed exactly same parameters we passed to the cursor loader. Now, once you create this cursor and it starts reading, once the reading is finished, it will call this method on load finished. It will call this method on load finished, and it will give you loader, which is the guy which loaded the object, and it gives you cursor. Here it is called data. So we will get the data from this cursor. So here what we did, this part of the code, okay, we will put inside the loader. And instead of, I'll change here cursor, I'll make it cursor. Doesn't matter. So after the reading is finished, we will read it from the incoming cursor, which is happening on the asynchronous thread. Okay, so this is how you read. Now we have to initialize the loader. For initializing the loader, we will say loader manager get instance for me, and initialize the loader. First parameter is ID, whatever ID that you want to give. Is the same thing as giving a key. Loader may be loading data from multiple locations. So for that, which one are you interested in? I would say, let's say 1 is my ID. Which bundle? Is there any third-party package or any wrapper or any box in which you are good looking at? No, it is right there in my current application. Loader callback, where should the loader callback go? It should come right here. That is how I load it. Now the problem, I'll run this now. I have initialized the loader. We have the callback. We have everything. So here I say load, it loads. Second time I load, it's empty. Did you see that? So here's my read contacts. I load it. It loads all the data. I click again, everything is gone. Okay, everything is gone. That is because a cursor is an Excel sheet, and we have read from the Excel sheet where the cursor is at the end now. We already read, now it is at the end of the page. So we have to bring it on the top of the page if you are rereading it. Okay. So for this, we'll make a slight change where we will say Boolean we will have to create a boolean to check whether it is loading first time or second time. Boolean is first load equals true. First time it is loaded, then initially, yes, it is first, true. Is first load true? Then here in this case, if is first load, then do this. Else we'll have to reload. So loader manager dot get instance for this dot reload, restart the loader, same parameters, one null this. So it will restart the loader. Once it has loaded, we will tell that is first load is false. So we load once, then we set it to false, that this is not the first load, so we can reload it. Load. Now it is good. So that's your complete implementation. I take this and keep it somewhere else. Cut and put it at the end so you can see the better of it. Your application is actually a bundle. Okay. Once your application will be generated, it will be a bundle. Okay. This second parameter bundle, it is null because I am not looking for any other bundle. Okay. If your application is seeking information from another package inside a package, okay, from another box. So your application is a box. If there is a box inside your application and you're looking for that, then you will tell which box are you looking for. That is the bundle arguments. Let me know once you're finished.
Is there something else that was written apart from these three methods now while you were updating on load finished? Hello?
I'm sorry, what?
Apart from these three methods, was any other code updated?
Apart from these three methods, no. Or this part was added to
Okay.
the read method.
Okay, you can proceed. I am done. I am done, Rajdeep. You can proceed.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
So out of these components, activities, services, content provider, broadcast receiver, intent, fragment is the one which is left. We will do fragments. So for this, we will create another class to handle fragments. Activity, empty activity. We'll call this as fragment container activity. fragment container activity has been added to our project. So before we do anything, what are fragments? Fragments are basically smaller units of user interface which can be represented on an activity. Like activities, fragments also have their own user interface. They have their own designing. One activity is one unit of user interface, whereas one fragment can be a full screen view or it can be a partial view. These are generally reusable components, design and implementation, which you may want to use and multiple places. So there is a similar design and implementation which is there in multiple user interfaces, and you want to make a component which can be used on those multiple positions. So fragments are smaller activities. One activity can contain more than one fragment, can contain more than one fragment. So for this, we have to create fragments, multiple fragments we will create. Okay. So in this case, I will add new fragment. Okay. We'll add a fragment. Let's create a blank fragment. There are different types of fragments available like Google Maps, add mobs. We will create a blank fragment. So blank fragment, let me call this as fragment 1. So once you create a fragment, it creates a lot of boilerplate code, lot of it. I'm going to get rid of all the unnecessary code here. So we'll delete this, delete it. We will start with an empty fragment. So this is a empty fragment. Fragment has its own life cycle. When you load a fragment into an activity, it has its own onCreate method. As you see here, it has its own onCreate method. Once it is created, the UI is created. But to get the user interface onto the view, it is important to have this method onCreateView. This will allow the application to load the fragment and connect it with the activity. So this is the inflator which inflates the design and connects it with the view. We will create 2 more fragments to show how you can move between fragments. So we'll create one more blank fragment. We'll call this as fragment 2, and we'll create one more fragment, blank fragment, fragment 3. And from all these fragments, we will remove the unwanted boilerplate. We remove the entire thing and we only keep the base code that is we require.
Yes.
Sorry? Okay.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. Let's go to our fragment container. So inside fragment container, there is a fragment container. I'll just create a normal layout here. Fragments can be added in different ways. It can be added statically into the layout. For example, I can add a fragment by giving it a name, using the name. So here you see my project name is com.skillsparrow.android basics, and I have 3 fragments: fragment 1, fragment 2, fragment 3. This is how you declaratively, statically add fragments to your layout. Okay, so here I can add fragment 1, fragment 2, fragment 3 all at one place. Let us give some design to our fragments. Where are our fragments? Fragment 1, 2, and 3. Okay, here are our fragments. So if you see, by default, the fragments generally they are inside the frame layout. Okay, so inside this layout, to make it look different, each layout look different, we will give it some properties. Let's say I am going to change the background to say teal, and there is a text view. It says hello blank fragment. We will change the name to fragment 1. We will say layout gravity center vertical, and we will say gravity, that is the content gravity center. Let's make the text size as 24 sp. Let's see how it looks. So this is our fragment 1. Similarly, I'll change the user interface of other fragments. Fragment 2, let's make the background as our color at color slash, make it as red. This one will make it as fragment 2 gravity center vertical and content gravity center, text color white. So this is how it looks, and let's make the text size again 30 sp. We'll keep the third one as it is, but make it center. Gravity center, gravity center, text size 24 sp. So these are our 3 fragments. Currently, what we have done is our container fragment has 1 fragment, and as you can see, we have a fragment here which we added in our static code. That is how you add statically. Okay, you have to give it the name of the fragment. So now, instead of static, we will create the we'll show you first manifest. We have to show the fragment container activity. So I'm going to show fragment container activity and run this. Made some changes in the fragments to make them look different from one another. My app is crashing. What could be the reason? XML file error inflating class fragment. Inflate exception binary XML line number 10. Inflating class fragment. What is wrong and where? Container fragment. ID fragment. Okay. So this is my fragment inside my activity. So it is important to give ID to a fragment so that it can understand it. Okay. So this is how you create static fragments. I don't want to create static fragments. I want to create fragments from the code. So for this purpose, I will create a button and the text will be add fragment. ID not required. We'll do on click add fragment. Okay. And for this purpose, I need a frame layout, which will be the container of my fragment. So make it 0 dp and weight as 1. So it takes the entire space, and I'll give it a ID fragment container. This layout will be, the frame layout is called fragment container. So I have this fragment container activity where we will add this method public void add fragment. So adding a fragment from the code is done by something known as fragment transaction. There is a fragment manager which can do fragment transactions. Okay. So let's say we will add a fragment. We'll say fragment frag is new fragment 1. We'll create a new fragment. Then we will create fragment transaction. ft equals, we'll create an instance of fragment manager. Fragment manager equals, we'll get the manager from get support fragment manager. So there are two managers. One is get fragment manager, one is support fragment manager. Support fragment manager allows you to use fragments even in those systems which are using APIs when fragments were not there. Okay. So fragment transaction manager, and we can say manager dot begin transaction. Okay. Begin transaction, we say fragment transaction manager dot add. Now I'm trying to add. It's saying which is the container. So r dot id dot fragment container. I want to load a fragment in the container. Then it is asking which fragment do you want to add, which is the fragment that I created on top, frag. And any tag that you want to give it, let me call this as frag1. It's a tag that I can identify later. Now we will say ft dot commit. You have commit and you have commit now. Okay, commit now is a synchronous command where it will definitely commit the transaction immediately. Here, though we have not seen any delays in commit, but it says the commit does not happen immediately. It will be scheduled as a work on main thread. So as per my experience, the schedule happens almost instantly and there is no delay. So you can use either commit or commit now. And I say commit. So when I click on the button, it will add the fragment. Okay, let's try out. So here is my empty view and I say add fragment and the fragment has been added. Okay, so I've added some one fragment to my application. Now what I'm going to do here is, did you people get the result? Now I will show you something. Just have a look at it. Okay. Now here I have one transaction, one transaction is there where I've added a what do you say, fragment. Now what I will do is I will create a counter, private int counter equals 0. Okay, now I will add a switch. Okay, fragment frag. Just watch what I'm doing. If counter is 1, counter mod 3, switch on counter mod 3. Case 1, frag equals new fragment 1 break. Case 2, frag equal new fragment 2 break. What will be third case? Third case will be 0. Frag equals new fragment 3 break. And we will add the fragment. Might not have been initialized. You default frag equals new fragment 1 break. Okay. So now I have initialized multiple fragments and we will add the fragment and see. Okay, so here I have fragment, add fragment, fragment 1 is here. Oh my God. I have not changed the counter, right? Counter plus plus. Add 1, add, it's 2, add 3, add again 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I have been able to continuously add fragments. Now if I hit this back button, my application disappears. Though there are fragments, but they are fragments contained inside the same fragment, inside the same activity. They are not part of the navigation system. If you want to make your fragments part of the navigation system, then when you do this add thing, okay, you have to say ft dot add to backstack. Now you say add to backstack. Now see the difference in the behavior. Now I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now see what happens when I hit the back button. Go, 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 go. Now it's empty. Now my activity goes away. Okay. So adding to backstack means I am adding it to the navigation stack of the Android, where I would be able to use it as if it was an activity. So fragments are piece of activities, but not adding to backstack means you are still in a single activity. You can actually listen to the backstack changes. There is a specific method which can be used to handle backstack. It is called manager dot add on backstack change listener. Okay, and we'll make a new on backstack change listener. Okay, let us do a toast dot make text get application context. What I want to display is, let's say, the current stack count will get manager dot get backstack entry count length long top show. So let's see how it works now. So we'll add, and the count is 1. Add, the count is 2. Add, it is 3. I go back, it is 2. Back, 1. And back, now it is 0. Right? So that is about your active fragments and the backstack. So here, apart from add, you can do other activities like ft dot remove, ft dot replace. These are certain other things that you can do. Okay. Okay, so like activities, fragments also have life cycle. The fragment, once loaded into an activity, can communicate with the activity using a method called onActivityCreated. It can communicate using this method onActivityCreated. It has lifecycle methods, which I'll tell you one by one. Once you instantiate a fragment, it gets attached to the layout. Okay, it gets attached to the layout. When it is get attached to the layout, it will get created. After getting the layer where it has to sit, then on create will happen. After on create, it will call on create view. It will be on create view. After the on create view is called and it is inflated, while it is getting connected to the view, the base layout, on activity created will be called. It will come to know that activity has been created to which you are about to attach or which two are connected. After that, its on start will be called. Okay, and then it will call on resume. At this point of time, the fragment is active for user interaction. Okay, now from here, when the fragment is active and you move forward or backward, when you move forward, it will go on pause, similar to activity, or go to on stop. Then it will go to on destroy view. On destroy view. First, the view will be destroyed. Then it will detach it from the base activity. And here, the destroy happens. So these are all the list of methods. First, on attach, when you call the activity, it will try to connect it with the view, checking the possibility of connecting or attaching itself to the view. All right, if it can, then it will create itself. Then view will be created and inflator will be called to get the view. Once it is inflated, it gets connected with the activity. Once that activity to which is connected is created, it will get a callback that the activity has been created. After it is created, then on start and on resume will be called. Okay. After that, it's a reverse process. Pause, stop, destroy the view, detach itself, then destroy. Now here when you hit the back stack, this is the process. It will pause, stop, destroy the view, detach itself, and then get destroyed. This is the life cycle of a fragment. So if you have more than one fragment in a view, they will have their own independent life cycle. Since we are doing fragments, I would want you to do a very important and interesting task. First thing, I want to confirm your project for login and registration. Those pages are all completed. If your project with those 5 pages which I told you earlier, they are not complete, please complete them, because tomorrow our entire day will be in that project. We will do login API calls, we will do data fetch API calls, we will do profile API calls. Okay, so tomorrow our entire day will go into that project. If you are not ready, then you will lag behind. Second, I today want you to do an interesting task, getting your location on the map. Okay. This is a self-guided activity. You will do it on your own following Google's tutorial. So Google has a well-designed, well-planned tutorial. I will give you the starting point of it. The code is already there. You will have to set up your application such that the map works. All right. Anybody who has not completed this activity fragment part? Okay. So for this task, we will create a separate application, file, new project, and we will use this Google Map activity. We'll do this Google Map activity. Next, we'll call this as ECS Google Map, and finish. All right, guys, listen to me very carefully. There is some piece of code which is capable of showing the position of a user. If I run this application immediately, nothing is going to happen because you require something known as Google Map API key. Okay. Whenever you use Google services, they provide you a key for that service. Most of the Google services, up to certain amount of calls, certain amount of transactions, they are free. To some extent, they are absolutely free. But after a certain amount of time, like you do Google Map searches like 1,000 times a day or 2,000 times a day, then they will start charging you. Okay. So currently the application will not work and will not show you anything. It will just show you Google. The map area will be totally empty. Okay. That is because you don't have the key. If you see Google Map API XML, your key should come here. Listen carefully. This key has to come here. This key you will have to get from Google portal. So this is the place, this place. Follow the directions here. This is the place where you will get your key. So visit this URL. Okay. Visit this URL. Follow the instructions. Get the key and place the key here. Place the key here. Once you place the key, then the map will start showing. After you get the map to work, follow the instructions here, get the key, get the map working. Once you get the map working, I want you to, this is currently hard coded to show Sydney location. It is hard coded to show Sydney location. Try and get your user location. Okay. You have to just request for location. The location will have latitude and longitude, which you have to pass to this marker. Your personal location will start showing. Okay. Are the instructions clear?
Yes.
All right, do it then. Get yourself a key by following the instructions here. Put the key here, get the map visible, and then show your location. This is a self exercise. You will have to help yourself. You can help each other. Maybe the people who are already working on Android can help each other. Login, register, home, detail, profile. This is what we need.
In home, what is to be
Home,
displayed?
we will display a list of data coming from API. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, guys.